Today I have the Premier with me, the Secretary of Education, Mr Tim Bullard, Mayor Rockcliffe from Devonport, and also the CEO of Ambulance Tasmania, Joe Acker. I'll be making a statement, then the Premier will be making a statement, and then the Secretary of Education will be making a statement, and then I'll step back up to take questions. As you're all aware, yesterday evening another child lost their life in hospital. This takes the death toll of this tragedy to 5. The investigation is ongoing and police are preparing a report for the coroner with the support of WorkSafe Tasmania. I know this means you'll have some questions that we're not able to answer, as many details will be a matter for the coroner. I can say that police understand there were close to 40 Year 5 and 6 students taking part in the end of term activities when this incident occurred. Several adults were also in attendance when the inflatable equipment lifted into the air, and they rendered first aid until emergency services arrived. 9 children were seriously injured. Tragically, 5 of those children have died, 3 boys and 2 girls. 1 was 11 years old, 4 were 12 years old. 3 remain in a critical condition at the Royal Hobart Hospital. 1 is now recovering from home. We ask media to be respectful of the family and those involved to allow them space to grieve and process this traumatic event. There's no doubt this incident will leave its mark, and I know people are sending their thoughts and prayers from right across the country and even further afield. We will be doing everything we can to support the community through this tragedy. Police are liaising closely with the families of the children involved. Cross-agency community recovery arrangements are now in place, led by the Tasmania Police Western District Commander, Debbie Williams. Tasmanians are already coming together to support each other at this very difficult time. The whole community, and particularly the Devonport region, is feeling this loss deeply. Support those around you and ask for help if you are struggling. That is so important. I've already spoken to some of the officers and emergency responders who attended, and I'd like to thank them again for their incredible response to such a confronting and distressing incident. Again, my heart goes out to all those affected and my thoughts are with them. For privacy reasons at this stage, we won't be providing any further details on the victims. Again, I urge media to allow the families and school community some space to process this devastating event. I'll now hand over to the Premier to say a few words.
Commissioner, thank you. Well, today the Tasmanian community continues to grieve for the 5 children who sadly lost their lives yesterday. We also continue to hope and pray for the 4 children who remain in hospital that they'll be able to recover. The tragedy which occurred yesterday is beyond comprehension. It's devastating, heartbreaking, it's just simply incomprehensible. What should have been a celebration for the end of the school year turned into an unfortunate tragedy for our young children at Hillcrest Primary. Overnight there's been an enormous outpouring of grief as well as support for those involved here in Devonport, across Tasmania, across the country and indeed across the world. We're very grateful for this support at this very sad time. Overnight and again this morning I've had the opportunity to speak with people in this community, to come to understand just how connected this community is. The number of people that I've spoken to that knew people that were there yesterday or had connections to the school, and I know that this is going to be a very challenging time for this entire community. I know that I speak for all Tasmanians when I extend my deepest sympathies to the family, friends and loved ones of everyone affected by this tragedy. As a parent, I cannot understand how the parents of those that have lost children must be feeling. But as a parent, I hope that they can understand that we are all feeling for you as well. As the Commissioner said yesterday, a full investigation is underway and the coroner has visited the scene. I make a commitment to all of the families impacted by this tragedy that we will stand with you and we will support you. I spoke just a short time ago with the Prime Minister and he has offered any support that we need, and I've been working closely with the Mayor, and where support, where services, where counselling is required, then we'll provide those services. My heart goes out to everyone that's impacted by this tragic event. For the 4 children, especially who remain in hospital, our thoughts and prayers are with them and their families during this difficult time. And could I just say once again to the parents of the 5 children that tragically died yesterday, that our thoughts are with you. As a community, as a state, we're thinking of you. I want to just once again remind people of the numbers that they can call if they do need assistance. Lifeline 131114, the Kids Helpline 1800 551 800, the Mental Health Helpline 1800 332 388, Beyond Blue 1300 224 636. For many people, these numbers appear as just numbers on a screen, but it's real. If you need someone to speak to, pick up the phone and have a conversation. It's really important that you do so. I'll now hand over to the Secretary of Education to say a few words.
Thank you, Premier. As we begin to come to terms today with the events of yesterday, my heart goes out to the families impacted by this tragedy. Our thoughts are with you. The Department of Education is with you. Today, supporting the wellbeing of our children, families and staff who have been so deeply affected by what has happened will be our immediate priority. At Hillcrest School today, we have a team of our own professional support staff, including school psychologists, social workers and chaplains, supporting children and their families. And the Department of Health is also assisting with access to child and adolescent mental health services. Together, we're working together to ensure that those impacted are receiving the care and assistance that they need at this time. And for our Hillcrest families, I urge you, please make contact with the school so that you can access appropriate support. We will continue to be in contact with families through the weekend and over the course of the holidays. For others affected by this incident, as the Premier said, there are a range of local support services that will be part of a coordinated response. And the Department of Education website has a list of those services that are available. These events will take some time to come to terms with, and I know that continued support and care is essential, as we know there'll be lasting impacts to our students, our families and our staff, as well as to the wider community. In closing, this event may impact your own children and young people right across the state. So it is so important that we take particular care of them and surround them with our love at this time. I'll now hand back to Commissioner Hine.
Thanks, Tim. Happy to take questions. The Mayor will be available for questions after the Premier.
Is there any relationship between the kids and other siblings involved at all?
We're not going to go into those private details of the individuals involved. Our main concern is supporting the families to get through this absolute tragedy.
Was the jumping castle tethered at all?
Again, that forms part of the investigation. We need to continue our investigation on behalf of the coroner and also with WorkSafe Tasmania. We all have a lot of questions and we need to form that as part of our investigation.
What's the connection with the Zorb balls in relation to the jumping castle? Were they inside the castle or on the outside?
Again, that's part of the investigation, but my understanding is those Zorb balls are outside the jumping castle, but again, that'll be form part of the investigation.
Were all the kids that were injured, were they all in the jumping castle?
Again, that forms part of the investigation. We're still piecing all that together, but it's fair to say the majority of those injured were in the jumping castle. But again, we need to piece every bit of the movements of the individuals together, so we can present a full picture to the coroner.
Is there any update on the distance? Yesterday you were saying 10 metres is the height, but then there was reports that maybe it was higher than that?
That's the initial from witnesses who gave that their estimation, but of course it was such a tragic event. People are witnessing something that's unfolding before their eyes in such unbelievable circumstances, and that's some of the heights that was relayed to police. But again, you know, we need to review that and get the evidence and present that before the coroner.
How are those the counselling efforts going for the first responders?
As you could well imagine, we're dealing with absolutely devastated families, so we're reaching out to the families to provide the counselling services that are required, and also to the first responders who went there, and to the teachers and the other students. So you could we can't imagine the devastation that these families and friends and colleagues and first responders are going through, but we have professional counsellors that are absolutely helping in any way they possibly can.
In relation to the jumping castle, have you questioned company management yet?
Obviously that'll form part of the investigation, and again it'll be a very detailed investigation led by the police with the assistance of WorkSafe under the direction of the coroner.
And what have witnesses told you about how strong the wind was and how sudden?
I think I've already read in the media that there's various accounts of how strong the wind. It's fair to say that the wind was quite strong, but again, this will all form part of the investigation to try and get an estimation of the wind strength, see what occurred, whether it was a freak event. So all those questions, we've all got them. The coroner has required that we work together to make sure a full picture is put together.
How long do you expect the investigation to take?
As I said, there's a number of people there. We need to interview those people. It will take quite some time, but again, we're doing it under the direction of the coroner.
Just a question for the Premier. There was mention about support from the Prime Minister. What sort of support would that be? What would that look like?
Well, I spoke with the Prime Minister both yesterday and again this morning, and he's offered any support that we need. Obviously, at a time like this, we have counselling services that are available. Now, if we need more people on the ground, he's said to me very clearly that he's happy to reach out to other states, and if we need people here, then we'll bring people here.
Premier, has the state government got the power to ban or at least impose a moratorium on these types of castles and amusements? And if so, is that going to happen?
Well, my understanding is that yesterday immediately Education checked to see whether or not any other forms of castles were being used across the state with a view to stopping them yesterday. Look, obviously we need to understand from the coroner and as the broader investigation takes place what the recommendations are out of that, and I understand obviously that Education will be conducting its own review as well.
You're just talking about the Education Department here, but surely there's other events where those things are used, and hasn't the state government got the power to, as I say, put a moratorium at the very least until we know what's happened?
Well, look, what we'll do is we'll be informed by the investigation as it moves forward, and if the state government needs to take any further steps, then we will.
Premier, it's been widely reported of the lack of psychologists in the northwest. What's being done to make sure that they can keep up with the demand at the moment?
Well, as I've said, I had the conversation with the Prime Minister this morning, and we'll reach out for resources to other jurisdictions if they're required. And obviously the Department of Health at the moment is looking at how it ensures that it provides appropriate supports here.
Will that support be ongoing? I know it was sort of offered at the school today and over the weekend. How ongoing will that support be?
Again, I'll be advised by the experts on this, but in terms of this, we won't time limit this. We'll take advice and we'll ensure that the supports are in place for as long as they need to be.
What have you observed so far about the community kind of rallying around each other? We've seen a few crowdfunding campaigns started up. Have you been inspired by what you've seen?
I spent some time walking around the city last night and again this morning, and I spoke to a number of people. Everybody is connected in this community in one way or the other, and at a time like this I'm certain that this community will find the strength to support each other. Some of the conversations that I've had which indicated people that knew people that had been at the school, had attended in the past, or new families. This community is very connected. And I must admit, I was Well, I think the only way that I could say I was inspired by the way that people felt that they wanted to do something. Everybody in this community that I've spoken to is wanting to do whatever they can to help these families, to help the school community, to help their broader community get through this.
Any questions for the Mayor?
Yeah. It'd be great to hear about how the community is feeling from your perspective and how you think the next couple of days might play out.
To be honest, I think we're still in shock. Certainly, we're still trying to get our heads around how we could possibly be losing these children. And as has been mentioned, we're a very connected community. Everyone knows somebody, and so I'm already seeing people wrapping their arms around each other and supporting each other, and I know that will continue, but we as council will certainly be working with the counselling services and emergency responders. I know the social recovery team is meeting soon to work out how we can best do that, but certainly, as I said, I'm seeing what I know about my community already, that they're taking care of each other because everyone is connected in some way.
And have we heard from a nurse who gave her account of how she felt and what she was faced with when some of the children were being brought in. How are, health workers pulling together at the moment? Have you spoken to any of them? How are they all pulling together?
I've spoken to some emergency service workers. They obviously did the job that they needed to do at that point, and as I said, the emergency responders who were there, the nurses who were at the hospital, they're all connected to our community in some way, and so I can't imagine how difficult it was for them to get on with the job that they needed to do to try to support these children, and I'm sure that probably today they're feeling trying to process some of that, as we all are. As a mum and a grandmother, I cannot imagine, but we will do the best that we can as a community to support everyone.
Does the council have any plans to initiate any kind of support mechanisms?
Look, we're working with teams that are already on the ground, and certainly we're working with my community services team over the next day or so. We're looking at some of the events that we had planned next week, whether they're appropriate. We'll be talking to experts around that, how we can best support our community, whether going ahead, whether not. It's a really difficult dilemma that we have, but in the scheme of things, it's probably a first world problem.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.